Anastasia Miliou is the scientific director for Archipelagos Institute of Marine Conservation, and she joins us now from Samos in Greece. Thanks so much for being with us. I imagine you in particular appreciate efforts like Lakshmi's there, but you'd much rather see less waste created in the first place, because so much of it is still ending up in our oceans and waterways. So tell us what you have been seeing now in the water.
It is really shocking how the amount of waste that is building up year by year, the amount of waste that we see, the amount of waste that we find on surface waters, and it's not an aesthetic problem. It's a public health problem and a very heavy heritage that we are leaving for the future generations. In every species analyzed, in over 10,000 of samples from fish, invertebrates, marine mammals that were found dead on the shores, it is now possible to identify in their tissues breakdown products of plastic, the plastic waste, the plastic that we use and are not able to dispose or are not willing to dispose. So far, we haven't seen so many masks. They haven't reached the marine ecosystems, the COVID, the pandemic-related waste. We expect to find them in the coming months and years, but we have to be concerned since we got so many steps back from stopping to use single-use plastic to putting them back in our life in a more dynamic, in a sadly much more strong manner that doesn't seem to have a solution in the near future.
Right. Anastasia, I should have mentioned, by the way, that you're not just joining us from Samos, you are joining us from your research vessel, your boat, on the water. So if anyone's getting motion sickness watching you, that is that's why. You know, what's funny is, with going back, I mean, it's even more frustrating, actually, since we thought the planet would be getting a break from pollution during the pandemic. But because of so much PPE waste, yeah, air quality has improved slightly, but it's gotten worse for the water.
It has the pandemic time for us that we're monitoring marine life has been an incredible opportunity for marine life to recover from our presence. It's the first spring, last spring and this spring now, that the fish stocks have the chance to breed and without the pressure of humans in the sea and without the constant noise pollution. On the other side, we are getting many steps back and many years back on the single-use plastic problem. And I think it's time to realize that it's not only what we use, but what we don't dispose. Our target should be no more plastic to be free in the environment, to break down into fragments that are no longer disposable and will be our inheritance for the future generation.
Right.
And especially here, and especially in the Aegean, in a sea that we used to exchange with the coast of Turkey, culture and civilization for so many thousands of years. It's frustrating that right now we're just exchanging our plastic waste. We could do much better, and we should do much better.
We could. And, you know, a number of local governments are finally starting to impose, you know, some pretty serious fines. In Europe now, it's starting to range between 60 and even like 130 euros if you're caught dropping any PPE waste, dropping your mask on the ground or dropping it into the water. Is that the kind of measures you really think we need to see more of?
We need these measures, but also I think the most important is education. If we realize that, you know, the consequences of our actions with dynamic education, and here the power of journalism, the power of the information we can bring to the people is very, very strong. You know, if we realize that, you know, the bottle or the mask will throw to the ground, will break down and will come not in our plate, but in the plate of our grandchildren, is something that should become alarming for the public to realize that it's not just one more glove or one more bottle, but it's a vicious circle that we have to consciously decide to stop. We need the fines, we need the measures, but the most important is education and awareness raising. The pandemic is a good lesson, good opportunity to learn that we are not the strongest species of the planet. We're now being chased by a tiny virus that we cannot even see in the microscope. we have to learn to live with the rest of the planet. It's not ours, and I think it's a good opportunity to make it a belief and a practice.
Yeah, I have another couple minutes left, actually. I want to ask you a kind of more detailed question. We're seeing all these images on our screens of, again, the PPE waste and then those physical masks in our waterways. Are you finding, you said you're worried that it's going to get much worse for the species in the water. Are you worried that you're going to start seeing that phenomenon of animals in particular getting wrapped in that plastic material, as we see seals, for example, that get wrapped in fishing nets, and they suffer so terribly? I mean, it's a slow, terrible death because that plastic physically gets wrapped around animals in the water. Is that what we might be set to see happen?
We are very worried about this, and I think this is something that, and it's not the actual, I mean, masks and this sort of waste are definitely something that is coming into the environment, it's coming into the ecosystem, and the breakdown products, I think, is the most alarming. The breakdown products is what could go into, become very small fragments and get into the ingestion, be ingested by the mammals, be ingested by fish, and enter the food chain and stay there for many, many years.
Right.
And that's the most worrying.
The microplastics really worry you most. Anastasia, we'll leave it there. It looks like the movement of your boat has actually tipped your image upside down. But really, thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us what you've been seeing in our waterways. We appreciate it.